Bitch, you need boundaries. I said what I said. As a chronic giver, Captain Save-A-Ho, person who struggles with rejection sensitivity dysphoria as a product of having ADHD, as an empathetic person, I often find it hard to see somebody in need and not help, regardless of my own financial situation. And I know that there is a lot of people like this. In fact, most of the people who I work with as clients would consider themselves givers with no boundaries. They struggle to tell their kids no. They struggle to tell their family members no, their loved ones no. And it's not because they're pushovers. It's because they don't like to see other people suffer. They really want to be, it's coming from a healthy place. They just don't have healthy boundaries. And so to their own detriment, they struggle financially. They will give even when their account is already in the negative, when they know they can't afford to do it, when they know it's going to take food out of their mouths, possibly even their kids' mouths. They have confidence that God will make a way for them, but they don't feel, or they feel like maybe because the person is coming to them that they're supposed to be the way that God wanted to make for them. And so they give, and they feel like internally it's painful for a couple of reasons. They want to be able to say yes. And so some of the frustration is just not being financially in a position where the yes feels easy because they got it. The ask itself is forcing them to remember that they themselves are struggling financially. So the ask is triggering. They were trying to forget that they were having financial problems, and then you express the need. And so they've got to answer the question is, can you help me out? And the first person they've got to answer that question to is themselves. In order to answer you, they've got to be able to admit to themselves that they can't afford to, that they are struggling, and that reality is hard, and you are making them face it. So they're either going to tell themselves and you a truth or a lie. They're either going to lie to themselves and say they can, and therefore tell you they can help you, or they're going to tell the truth and admit that they can't. And then they would have to admit to you that they can't. And that is only if they're not going to abandon themselves. But then also, because there's this looming pressure that it's creating tension in their relationship. And it's not necessarily because of the person, but because they know that their yes is self-betrayal. They know that their yes is causing self-harm, and the other person asking is positioning them to harm themselves. And the other person legitimately may not know, and you may not have told them, and so they're not doing it on purpose. You never actually tell them that you're not in a position to give. And why we don't tell them, that's loaded. There's lots of reasons why we don't always tell them. We don't want them to genuinely be in need and feel like they're burdening us and never ask. We never want them to suffer because they were afraid of our capacity. We want to be able to make the decision about our capacity for ourselves and not have somebody go through extreme hardship because they were afraid of our no or that they would be burdening us, and we don't want them to make that decision for us. But also sometimes it is we are ashamed of our lack of surplus because we feel like, or we know that people assume we're better off than we are. It's not even that you've ever said that you were better off, but people just make the assumption, I think, because you don't complain, that you must be okay. And you feel the need to live up to that expectation, or because you have a good job and you make good money that you have it. Maybe you don't. And even if you do, you have goals that you still want to work on, and you feel wrong for wanting to put your goals above their needs. And you feel like you're lying if you say no, if you do have the extra. And maybe it's because you've been there before and you've needed someone to help you. Hell, if you're struggling, you probably need somebody right now. And so you feel like you can't say no because you might need them tomorrow. You also don't ever want to find yourself in a situation, because maybe you could imagine yourself like, gosh, if I was in a situation, I know the only time I'd ever ask if I was truly desperate and really needed it, and how would I want somebody to treat me to know I wouldn't be taking advantage of them? And so you're like, I can't tell them no because I don't know how hard it was for them. I know what it would have taken from me. And we assume that other people had to go through that whole same thought process, and it took everything for them to ask you. And you don't want to be the person that rejects them in this time of need. There's lots of reasons. And then you have the fact that if you're the kind of person that people feel safe asking, odds are multiple people are asking you. And the one person in front of you asking you doesn't even think about this, that they feel like their ask is your only ask of the day, of the week, of the month, of the year. But in your inbox, you probably got 5 more people asking, can I just borrow $20? Can I just borrow $40? Can I borrow a couple $100 until whatever? And if you say yes to all of those, it adds up. And if you say yes to some of those, you feel wrong for how did you make your decision as to who your yeses and nos were to, especially when you consider the people asking equals to you. So you either feel like you should say no to all of them. And so there's lots that happens in your mind when it comes to like boundaries with money. I mean, you can imagine yourself being in a point where you needed something and somebody helped you and you feel grateful for that. Like somebody was generous when you needed help, and you don't want to repay that by not reciprocating. So it's very complicated, the thoughts and the feelings around giving. And I'm the kind of person that I always want to be a giver. Like I don't, there are times that I overgave, and I don't think it's a character flaw to want to help people. I love being the kind of person that people feel safe enough to ask. And yet I still need to learn how to have boundaries, because first of all, a lot of times I'm replacing God. If I'm the person they always go to, that means they never go to God about it. And I didn't even consider that I sometimes when I'm jumping in to solve a problem, I'm actually getting in God's way. But also, like I said, I always want to be the kind of person who gives. I always want to be the kind of person who's comfortable sharing what God has blessed me with, because none of it belongs to me. And yeah, I still need to learn boundaries, because self-harm, self-abandonment is not healthy. And also, most importantly, it doesn't allow you to sustainably give. If I give until I have nothing, if I give until I've given every seed I have away, I can't plant something in the soil to grow again for both of us to eat in the future. And once I got that revelation that saying no is saying yes, it made it a little bit easier for my no's to still feel like love. Because now I realize my no's now are so that I can say yes later, when it might be more important, when it often is more important and more significant. Because I know that if I give when I can't afford to, and it causes harm to my family, I'm going to resent you a little bit, not on purpose, but there'll be some part of me that will connect you to that self-harm. I'll know that in the future, if I've given everything I had to give and then I have nothing to grow to eat with, I'm going to starve, and you can't help me, and you will feel bad for putting me in a position where I can't eat. But I still want to be a giver. So I had to find a way to be able to sustainably give. And I thought about the Nobel Peace Prize. And I don't know if you know how the Nobel Peace Prize works, but they never give away the principal amount. Like when this prize was created, one of the rules was they only could award the interest. So because the principal is never touched, every year it gains enough interest to pay out the prize. And I learned that when I was in like elementary school, and I thought that was fascinating. And so as an adult, it occurred to me like that's the way I get to continue to be a giver. If I have a core amount of money and I only give the interest, then it's sustainable. I can continue to give without it harming me, without taking from my regular budget, without it taking from my goals, because this is the seed that allows me to continue to give fruit. But in order for me to get to a point where I have enough money saved to be able to give continuously long after I'm gone, so that generations will be able to be supported and I'd be able to give to my family and to my loved ones, I have to say no. Not because I don't love you and because I don't care, but because I want to be able to help my families whether I'm here or not. I want to be able to build the kind of wealth that can provide scholarships, that can help fund business ideas in my family, that can help with medical expenses in a sustainable way, that can give back to my community, that is mutually beneficial and replenishable. and keeps us from being vulnerable to the government's handouts. So I love the idea of creating a Nobel Peace Prize like giving system because it'll allow me to give forever without abandoning the mission that God gave me for my life, without abandoning my financial needs or my goals, without jeopardizing my relationship with the person asking. And lastly, I love that it has built-in boundaries because once the interest is out for the year, it's out for the year and you have to wait for the next year to replenish. There is no never-ending ATM swipe of your personal bank account. I have what I could give for the year and I'm happy to give it, but once it's done, it's done. And knowing that there is a limit forces you to be more judicious about how you give, who you give, how much you give, how frequently you give. And it forces you to even maybe make stipulations on returning what is given if it's not a gift. Anyway, if you found this helpful, join the conversation. I would love to know what you think about it. If you struggle with boundaries, if you know somebody who does. And let me know if you'd like me to create a video about 2 very specific giving systems that you can create that can help you have better boundaries around giving. Also, let me know if I should make a Bitch You Need Boundaries hoodies. Because y'all know I love to make a hoodie that reminds you about your financial goals and your boundaries, bitch. Let me know if I should add it to the success shop.